Hello, and welcome to the Special Olympics Illinois webcast tutorials. This is our GMS 6 Spring Game Series, and today we're going to be discussing creating your games. In GMS, we have a couple of options to create games. Our first option is from scratch, which we'll be covering today, and option 2 is to duplicate a previous games. If you've already got those set up in GMS 6, we can duplicate those. And in GMS 6, we get two different options with duplicating events. We can duplicate them empty, which will bring all the delegations in, but will not bring any athletes or coaches. And our option 3 is to duplicate a previous games with all people. This will bring all of your athletes, all of your coaches previously registered in the previous games into your new games. We'll discuss option 2 and 3 separately on other tutorials in the future, but since we're going to need to start this year with our spring games from scratch, that's our option that we're going to start with today. There are a couple things that you'll want to have before we get started. You'll want to have a copy of the athletics entry form handy so you can reference that to make sure we're including all the events offered, as well as a list of expected delegations. And we'll talk a little bit about why you'll want to have that when we're doing our series, as well as a copy of the policies and procedures just for reference in case you have any questions while setting up your event. Okay, and let's get started. Okay, so I have opened my GMS and logged in, and we are now here on our welcome screen. Our first thing we're going to do is we're going to go here to our games ribbon, and if you click that, it'll open up and show all the games that we have. Since we're going to be creating a games from scratch, we're going to come up here to our link to create new games. That will open our new games wizard, and this will take us through our steps. First, we're going to name our event. I'm going to name this the 2014 Area 18 Spring Games. And I'm going to put test at the end of mine just so I don't get it confused when I'm setting up my actual games. Right now we don't have our games groups set up just yet, so we can go ahead and leave this blank. But when we do have those set up, you'll be able to select a games group to assign it to. So it'll make it a little easier to search for those games when we're working in GMS. We're going to change this to GMS only. Since we're not using VSIS, we don't need it to be able to talk to it. And here's why we want to have a list of anticipated delegations. We can scroll down through here and we can select all of our delegations to put in the games. Of course, if we don't know exactly who's coming, we can add a few, and we can always go back and add more at a later date from within the games. We have a couple of options with adding delegations. We can either select each one individually, or I could come here and select the parent group Area 18, and then I could go through here and take out the agencies that I know do not come to spring games. Like Elk Grove's Gymnastics School, they only participate in gymnastics, so I know they're not going to be coming to spring games. So I could do that to get rid of some of these agencies that I know will not be attending spring games. And once I've got all of my agencies selected, then I can click out of that window and click Next. And here's where we're going to choose our sport. If we only have athletics at our spring games, then we'll open up athletics, and I did that by just clicking here on this little plus sign. And again, we can select all the events at once, or we can select them individually. As you're scrolling through here, you will notice there are additional events that we don't offer here in Illinois. This is developed to be pretty standard across Special Olympics, so they included all of the events that are recognized. So we'll need to go through here and take off the events that we don't offer. So if we select here at our top athletics, track and field, so we see that it's selected all of the events. And then we can go through and take out the additional events that we don't offer. Okay, so we should have all of our events in here. Let me get rid of that. Sorry about that. And we're going to just go through and make sure that we've taken off some of the events that we don't offer, like our 10-meter wheelchair race, 10K run, 10K walk, our hurdles. We'll take off the 25-meter wheelchair obstacle, as well as the run and walk. And then as we're scrolling through here, oh, I think I left here this 1500-meter run walk. We'll take that off since we don't offer that. And as we're going through here, you'll notice that we do not have in here a 50-meter non-motorized wheelchair race. We'll need to go in once we've created our games and are defining our events to set up that new event since we are piloting that. And that will be a separate session video here momentarily. But we're going to go through here and just double check. You'll also notice I put in all of the pentathlon options as well as all the shot put options. We'll have two separate webcasts dealing with pentathlon and shot put because there are some little different things we need to do with those. So we'll handle those separately. But you'll see once we have all of our events in here. Now we're just going to go next. And here it's going to ask us our roles allowed in the games. Currently it's defaulted to choose athlete, coach, and unified partner. Since I don't have any unified partner events at my spring games, I can take that off. I do input my coaches into my games so that I can track their participation, so I do want that selected. And of course our athletes. If you will be offering any young athlete events, then we would want to come down here and select the young athlete option. We're not going to handle the young athlete events in this session. We'll do a separate one regarding those. So we're just going to leave that blank for now. Our roles allowed in the event, of course, are just our athletes. And athletes are only allowed in the games once, so we'll leave that selected. And our game start date is going to be the start date of your competition. We're just going to go ahead and choose April 1st. We'll have a nice chilly spring games, but that'll be a good date to choose. Why not? And for our date for calculating ages, of course, is December 31st of the year that we're in. So we're going to choose our December 31st, 2014. And this is something that in the GMS 6 does not carry through to all of our events. So once we go in to define our events, we'll need to make sure that we set this date for calculating ages. If we miss this step, it could potentially really impact our divisioning and our age groups. So we want to make sure that we're double checking that that is always December 31st. If we had locations set up, we could select a location, but we're going to leave that blank for now. Our default honest effort will be 30% since we're going to division at 20. And our games owners and games team members, these we can just leave as they are defaulted. The games owner will always be you. And then the games team members, this really applies to different security rights you can give people, which we're not really utilizing in our use of GMS 6. So we can leave this as it's defaulted. So then we'll go next and next again and finish. And now it's going to think for a little bit. And once it is done thinking, it will take you back to your main screen. In GMS 5, it used to open the games immediately for you. In 6 now, it will bring you back to your list of games, and we'll see that our games here are listed at the top because they're sorted by start date. And that is setting up our games from scratch. Thank you so much, and join us again for our next session. And we do have some additional resources here available. There will be a checklist that you can download from the GMS6 users forum. That will just be a checklist showing all of the event definitions and the options that we standardly choose. Thanks again. Hope this was helpful, and we'll see you in the next session.